The volcanic eruption in Iceland in 2010 and various other events have demonstrated the vulnerability of the European aviation system. The level of disruption and the impact on the air transport industry was extensive and required urgent action at both the European and global level. The European Aviation Crisis Coordination Cell, the EACCC for short, was established by EU transport ministers on the 11th of May 2010 with the help of Eurocontrol. Its aim is to respond to crisis situations like the volcanic ash disruptions of April and May 2010. Before 1996, the Central Flow Management Unit, the CFMU, was not yet fully operational. European states used the European Office of ICAO and the Eurocontrol Committee of Management as fora to coordinate national actions in times of crises. The CFMU became responsible for the coordination of operations during any airspace disruptions, and the Crisis Management Group was established. Europe seemed ready to manage any crisis which affected European airspace. Surprisingly, however, the two major crisis situations impacting Europe in the next 3 years did not really make use of the crisis management body. The Balkans War in 1999 was a major crisis for European aviation. Large parts of the airspace in the Balkan area, as well as over the Adriatic Sea, were closed. Adjacent airspaces were impacted, with consequent implications for civil traffic and for air traffic management. 11th September 2001. US airspace closed with immediate effect. Aircraft had to turn back mid-Atlantic. The rest of the US-bound flights grounded within 4 minutes.
Effective immediately until further notice. Flight operations in the national airspace system are prohibited.
The crisis was managed at operational level between the CFMU and the Federal Aviation Administration Command Center. The eruption in Iceland in 2010 caused a major impact on aviation. Moreover, it is the eruption that so far has caused the longest and the biggest, in economic terms, impact on aviation. The measures applied during the period April 14th to 21st resulted in many cancelled flights, which in turn caused many stranded passengers, heavy economic impact on airlines, and an impact on European businesses. More than 100,000 flights cancelled, 1.2 million passengers affected each day. This cost airlines $1.7 billion in lost revenue. On the busiest day of the ash crisis, the CFMU Network Operations Portal, the NOP for short, received more than 13.5 million hits. In addition to the traditional means of communication, such as press conferences, the social media was used extensively as an effective means of providing the latest information on the crisis. This episode spurred key players, including the aviation regulators, aviation experts, and also political bodies, into action. Lessons learned during the eruption in Iceland were used to establish the EACCC to coordinate the management of responses to network crises affecting aviation in Europe. The members of the EACCC are made up of one representative of the member state holding the presidency of the European Council, one representative of the European Commission, one representative of Eurocontrol, one representative of EASA, one representative of the military, one representative of the air navigation service providers, one representative of airports, and one representative of the airspace users. State focal points from states directly impacted by the crisis event may be invited to join the EACCC proceedings. The network manager devised the Network Disruptions Management Procedure to be followed in the case of major ATM disruptions. According to this procedure, the levels and phases of network operations to be considered in a crisis or a potential crisis scenario are pre-alert phase, normal operations, minor incidents, and minor disruptions that require routine action by the network manager and the affected parties. Disruption management, the management of major disruptions to the network. Crisis management phase, the EACCC is activated. How will the EACCC gather information during crisis events? The first step is to approach the state focal points in states that are directly impacted by the crisis and get the latest information on the impact of the event and possible mitigations that these states are considering to put in place. Moreover, and depending on the nature of the crisis, expert organizations could be contacted. For example, the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center, NATO, the EU Radiation Protection Unit, and others, that could provide more information on the latest status of the crisis and its possible evolution in the hours to come. In many cases, continued crises spread across national boundaries. Those states that are most likely to be next impacted, according to the assessment of the expert organizations, will be contacted. Again, the primary contact would be the state focal points. Crises can often impact whole regions and in some cases even have a global impact. That is why the EACCC continues to build and maintain close working relationships with crisis management structures in the USA, the Russian Federation, the Middle East, and other regions with which Europe would work together on addressing the impact of future crises on aviation. There are a number of possible scenarios that adversely affect aviation and which can be declared as a crisis. These include, but they are not limited to, volcanic ash dispersion, nuclear emissions dispersion, war, hazardous chemicals dispersion, fire, security threats such as terrorism, airborne spread of diseases and pandemics, an earthquake, flooding, major failure of a pan-European function, industrial action or unavailability of several air navigation service providers, massive cyber attack, severe meteorological conditions, shortage of fuel in Europe, threat from space, such as space debris and space weather. The NOP serves two main purposes: monitoring the real-time status of traffic, airspace, and air traffic flow and capacity management measures, and planning pan-European operations in a collaborative way from the strategic to the tactical phases. EVITA is the European Crisis Visualization Interactive Tool for air traffic flow and capacity management. The inputs to this tool are ash concentration data, NOTAMs, user-defined areas, and the outputs are charts, impacted flights, aerodromes, and sectors. The tool will calculate the impacted flights, sectors, and aerodromes against the selected forecasted ash concentration data and by declared danger areas. We'll display the calculation results in either graphical or textual format. We'll display the ash concentration graphical product received on the NOP portal map. We'll display the danger areas declared by states via NOTAM on the same map. Our conferences, both online and by telephone, are embedded in the NOP TeleWebEx conferences portlets. Each online conference is recorded and can be listened to after the meeting. Since its establishment, the EACCC has been on alert on several occasions due to major disruptions to the European aviation network. Crisis management processes are exercised regularly, and the EACCC participates in these exercises. To get more information concerning disruption and crisis management, please follow this link.